My dance is surely the truest expression of who I am, because I feel that in it, all that is best in me is crystallized. When I dance, I feel I am at once a poet, a painter, and a singer. But ultimately, for me, dance is a prayer with my entire being. Not a formal, austere ritual, but a transforming experience. A joyous celebration of life. I believe there is a dancer in every one of us, and that there is dance all around us. An eternal rhythm pervades the universe. We see it everywhere. We see glimpses in the rhythms of nature and life, right from the movements of the planets in the universe to the most mundane daily chores of life. And in India, since ancient times, dance has been a wonderful motif of this cosmic rhythm and of life. I cannot think of a more powerful and exquisite symbol of this eternal cycle than the cosmic dance of Lord Shiva as Nataraja, Lord of Dance. And temples were not merely places of worship where people went to pray, but also centers of learning, where dance and music flourished as ritual, as celebration, as a wonderful means of sensitizing and educating people. Our dance is a composite art, and it weaves together many different strands of music and poetry, theatre, painting and sculpture, of philosophy. But central to this dance is the experience and expression of the spiritual.
All forms of dance in India are rooted in Bharata's Natya Shastra. Now, the Bharata's Natya Shastra has a lovely commentary by one Kashmiri scholar, Abhinava Gupta. And in this, they specifically say that dance is endless, no beginning and no end. And if they have prescribed any definition of what they call the 108 poses karanas, nritta karanas, it is only for the common man to immediately understand what that particular karana she is dancing. The lakshana is prescribed for the spectators to easily grasp what is going on in the stage. but they can create with these thousands and thousands of forms. All these forms have been developing and refined and brought to this state through the centuries, and what has been the best, that has come down to us. And I see that whatever India has visualized, whatever India wanted to project, and whatever refinement in the art of dance that India has preserved, all you can see in Alarmel Valli. We would love to see her dance again and again and again, because she can create in every dance something new.
What matters most to me is not so much the genre of dance, but rather the conviction, the passion, and the integrity that one brings to one's work. And I think it is a dancer's ability to touch, to move, even to change someone's life in some measure, which is the acid test of the timelessness of her art. I don't live in some kind of a cultural ivory tower. I consider myself someone of this time and age. So I feel that all of us as contemporary women bring our sensibilities, and the dance is infused with it. For me, the challenge lies in transforming what is a codified idiom of gesture into a language of self-expression.
Well, I would say that Valli is one of the greatest solo dancers in the world. I would not restrict, I would not qualify it by saying that she is a great Bharatanatyam dancer. Because I think there are things that run through this medium of dance, whether it is ballet or Bharatanatyam, or which finally tell you what is a great dancer. And it's not restricted to that particular style. And of course, there are characteristics of that style that the dancer has to observe. And it's not just something about the gharana. It is the individuality of that dancer. That you have to know your body, you have to know your best points, you have to know your capabilities, and first of all, you have to know your mind. It is that instantaneous contact between your mind and body. And that, I think, for me, is the style of that particular dancer.
tadim tarigudum takka tadim tarigudum takka dikku tadde tarigudum takka de tarigudum tarigudum tom de tarigudum.
Everything lies in the discipline and the practice. No matter how inspired you might be, ultimately what emerges has to be shaped and honed. You have to add dimensions, cut many facets into what you do. By constant practice, first you internalize what you do, and then you keep repeating it again and again. And the marvelous thing, it's almost magical. You think you have done it as well as you possibly can, that you have explored all the aspects of it, that you can present a movement as perfectly, the line is as straight as it can be, or the movement is as beautiful as it can get. But then when you keep practicing it for maybe 6 months even, suddenly you find new colors, new shapes, a new awareness of what you are doing. And that, I think, is one of the most exciting things about being a dancer. Through dance, we can express the entire gamut of human experience and emotion. That is why it has been such a powerful means of communication.
The first time I experienced a performance by Alarmel Valli was in Munich. And I had the illusion, of course, that she was dancing only for me. Now I'm sure everybody in the audience had the same illusion. But at the end of the performance, I thought that not only was she dancing only for me, but that I had known her all my life and that I had spoken to her already. And imagine her going all over the world and entrancing thousands and thousands of her observers and those people who really completely get enveloped by her art.
In music, you call it pukar. That's you really call somebody out, you know. So Valli's dance has that kind of pukar, you know. It draws you out, it pulls you out. And you know, you're on the edge of your seat because you feel that you're being addressed to directly.
Valli is a true scientist in the sense a continuous research, continuous search for new forms of dance, new meaning, and whether it is Sankalp literature or English literature, her repertoire is very wide, and she has shown that dance, pure dance, transcends language. She has combined spirituality, sensuality, meaning, and the beauty of art and forms. She is a real pride of India in the field of dance, and not only pride of India, but pride of the world. And no wonder people call what she is doing Valli Natyam.
Take a very simple relationship that every dance form has with the force of gravity. Now with Valli, the way she relates to this gravity is that yes, I love this earth, I'm in contact with it. But it's like when you see a stone going across the surface of water when you play ducks and drakes. I mean, she can be that stone but will not be swallowed by that water. So there is that kind of lightness to her dancing, but this lightness is not frivolousness. There is a tremendous joy of that contact, of that leap, of that circle, of all the perfect geometric forms that she is able to execute with that kind of nimbleness.
She has been able to mesmerize audiences throughout the world. She's an ambassador of the art. And I think that's where I think she has really done a great service to not only her chosen field of Bharatanatyam, but also she has done a great service to the art as a whole. And I think her presentations are something that the entire artistic world can look up to and learn from. And across fields, I think she's an inspiration for a lot of people.
पद्म भूषण श्रीमती अलारमेल वल्ली नृत्य।
from the age of 6 or 7, she had her schedule planned right through the day. From hour to hour, it would, in the mornings, by 6 o'clock, she has to be on the dance floor. 8:15 or so, I had to plead with the master to let her go, that she may attend school in time. School would open at 9 and she was invariably late for the prayer sessions, and so she had to sneak in from the back, all sorts of things. And then at home there would be this, very traditional music teacher waiting to claim her attention for the music lesson.
I was an only child, but I grew up in a joint family surrounded by cousins, uncles and aunts, in a rambling old house. It was rather like something out of Kipling, areas of dense shrubbery where cobras were often seen and the mongooses played. Everyone was passionate about tennis and cricket. Unfortunately, I was the bane of the team. I was packed off as a permanent outfielder to some tamarind trees right on the edge of the grounds. Every Sunday, I would visit my maternal grandfather, who opened up a magic world of literature, of Sangam poetry, the songs of the Alvars and the Nayanmars, Kalidasa and Kamban, Shakespeare and the classics. It was quieter, more mellow, a time for enrichment. There's a bungalow in the grounds of the old house with a winding staircase. And during games of hide and seek, I would often go up there to hide. For some reason, I loved to look through the trellis, to just stand there and dream. Some children are naturally disciplined. Myself, I tended to play truant and I loved reading, so I used to get lost in my books. So I really needed someone like Amma who had a complete sense of, vision and direction to pull me back from whichever foray I used to be making, go off in some direction. Focus.
Alarmel Valli, the very name suggests a whiff of fragrance from the lotus in the pool. And that's what her name means. A lotus fragrant with scent and flowering out before the sun. I have seen her from her childhood, I would say. In her teens, when she started dancing, I've been watching her dance, and I knew that she was going to make a great dancer.
I was only 9 when I had my Arangetram, my debut. At that time, I had no idea at all that dance would become my life. In Indian thought, we believe that to find a good guru is a result of your past karma. And I really must have done a great deal of good to have had titans in Bharatanatyam to teach me. Father and son, gurus Pandanallur Chokkalingam Pillai and Pandanallur Subbaraya Pillai. Pandanallur is the name of this style, what we call a bani. This is a style which is strong. It has a wonderfully rich vocabulary of alphabets, dance alphabets. It is very pure in line. It has purity of line. They believe in the lyrical approach as differing from the dramatic, and they believe in substance more than just glitter and glamour. But these masters, I think, felt at that point that it needed another dimension, and they were trying to evolve a style that would be a happy medium between brittle staccato on the one hand and clawing grace on the other. So they wanted a line that was powerful and perfect, at the same time supple and flowing.
జన జన కుకుందరి దై కుకుందరి తా తకుందరి దై కుకుందరి తకుందరి కిట తక తాం 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 తకది కుకరగడగడోం తకది కుకరగడగడోం తకది కుకరగడగడోం
Great masters like mine embodied the collective consciousness of many generations of dance gurus. When I studied with Subbaraya Pillai, I actually feel I absorbed the most valuable lessons as much from what he did not say as from what he explained. Through the process of osmosis, as it were, I am deeply grateful to Subbaraya Pillai for giving me the soundest of foundations in dance grammar and technique, but also the freedom to be my own dancer, to add to my dance vocabulary, to reinvent my inherited dance tradition.
For me, music is the key to my understanding and interpretation of dance. In fact, I've always said that it's so important that dance is music, visual music, and that when I dance, I actually sing with my body. And I sincerely feel that it's not some clever cliche, because when you move, every bit of you is responding to every curve, nuance, trill in the music. And this process, I think, began with my gurus, but came into their own with my music classes with Srimati T. Mukta.
Srimati T. Mukta and her sister T. Brinda were granddaughters of the legendary Veena Dhanammal. Theirs is a unique style of music. It is extremely subtle, meditative, emotionally complex. I think of it as music for the soul. Adiyokka Yugamo is one of the most difficult of the Kshetriya Padams set to Ragam Kambodi, the Shrutiruputta Talam. In this Padam, she says, that was another yuga, another age. This is another janma, another life altogether. He and I are strangers to one another. Why do you prattle on so? Enough of this nonsense. And let me be, she says to her friend. And in bitterness, why will he come to me? And then in a fit of anger and bitterness, no, tell him not to come. For how I have suffered, how I have waited in vain, every minute an agony of anticipation, hoping against hope. Will he come today? Surely at least tomorrow he will come. And how I have suffered in this unendurable moonlight, my lips parched from sighing ceaselessly through these long, agonizing nights. When I studied music with Muktama, I found my body instinctively responding not only to every curve and cadence of the musical poetry, but even to the spaces between words, the pauses between notes. It was as if my body was listening to the music.
She is a poet, she is a musician, she is a painter. For how else can everything come together so beautifully? Be it a nuance of the note, be it the bhava or the expression of the sahitya, the song text she chooses, or be it the fragment of the rhythm that she deals with so beautifully. It's just like one voice coming from the stage. The way she looks at the expression of the sahityam is something that conjures up so many images for a musician like me. Like she says, look at the different ways, we can look at this expression. Look at the different ways we can look at this word. So she understands the music, the poetry, the sahitya, the rhythm, everything perfectly. She takes pains to see that it's presented in her own inimitable, perfect way, like only she can do.
செய்யாதே pleading இருக்கணும், appeal இருக்கணும். Why you just scowling, frowning, அது மட்டும் இருந்தா போறாது. So there have to be these various shades of feeling in that one word, because otherwise it will get monotonous, because the same line is being repeated again and again. Because when you say வேண்டாம், வேண்டாம், that has its own, when you do this, please don't, or when you do please, don't do that. When you do use the suchi, this has a very admonitory, conditional, use this gesture, don't. It's different. So the same word, but with a different hasta, can convey so many other things. So when you're saying, Venda, Venda, don't do that. Whereas if you say, no, don't do that. How can you do that? And when you point to someone with the same thing, when you point with this, it has a different suggestion. நீ இப்படி செய்யலாமா, நீ இப்படி செய்யலாமா, உனக்கே சரியா இருக்காது, உனக்கு சரியா இருக்கா? It was in the times of the British during colonization that there was a very big setback to dance, because until then you had the temple dancers, the Devadasis, dedicated to the temples, great kings, great patrons, all of whom who supported dance and music. And these traditional dancers, the Devadasis, who served God through dance. And dance for them was, they were women of great accomplishment, highly educated. But I think that Victorian perceptions were very offended by the sensuality, by the joyousness of this dance, where every part was used, where the eyes, the eyebrows, such a vibrant, dynamic form. It offended Puritan morality, with the result that there was a period in history which was a dark period, where dance was actually banned, temple dancing was banned. But great visionaries, progressive Indians, brought it back into the ambit of society.
To begin with, Indian dance, which was associated with temple, and there was always this a dual layering of the dance. On the one hand, you are talking about the deity and there is that bhakti, and on the other hand, there is eros. So that eros has been an extremely important component of Indian dance. Eros is not exhibitionism. There is suggestion, there is subtlety, there is observation, and there is genuine love in eros. So that eros is something which Valli brings out. So the kind of very gracious curves that she takes. There is no separation between the geometry and the rasa that is finally going to be released. I think the true artist, Indian artist, always adheres to a certain syntax, a grammar, then individualizes that so that the sensuousness of his or her body can be released through that. And that is the individual expression that an Indian artist brings.
I don't know whether to call her just a dancer or a poetess, because she's a combination of everything. When she speaks, when she writes, or whether she dances, it all is completely compact in her thought, in her movement, in her words. And the poetry that she demonstrates in movement really makes me as an Indian so proud that I'm her countryman.
I feel poetry is at the core of all art. There is a seamless connection between word, meaning and music. And my experience of dance as visual poetry and as visual melody is very closely linked to this.
About 20 years ago, I remember I was in the entrance hall when my mother suddenly emerged from the room all excited and said, "Read this poem, it's so perfect for dance." And that was my introduction to Sangam poetry in translation. It was this very slightly amusing, very beautiful poem about the transition in a girl's life from childhood to teenage years. Her first awareness of the opposite sex as something other than a nuisance.
poems were authored around 2000 years ago, and yet they are so fresh, so timeless. I have been working extensively on these poems over the years. Time and again, they remind me of the kinship, the deep kinship between the natural and the human worlds. These poems are very sensuous and suggestive. Sometimes they can be direct and dramatic, but they are always poignant and richly metaphoric. Each poem has a special metaphoric association with a particular landscape, a mood, a flower, or a season. And some have an almost haiku-like quality.
They speak across centuries with a striking contemporaneity. I have, I think, grown as a person and been enriched thanks to my work with Sangam poems, both as an artist and as a person. My mind is suffused with images and memories of my childhood days. We used to come to my uncle's casuarina groves for picnics and then walk out to the sea and spend hours there. All these wonderful memories that I have, I think, find expression in many of the poems and songs that we choreograph in dance, because there are such absolutely exquisite images in these poems. For instance, there's a poem that was written on water by a modern poet, but it describes water as a metaphor for the cycle of life, beginning with the birth of water through the marriage of the sun and the ocean. And of them is born the cloud maiden, who is wooed by the wind god with flashes of lightning and drum beats of thunder, and of them rain is born, showering down on earth. And then the cycle continues. For me, music and poetry are central to my selection of pieces in dance. Sometimes the music is so wonderful, so moving, you can actually see the music in visual form. Or it could be a poem that I read, which suddenly appears in one's mind's eye as very beautiful images. And then you want to translate those images or those metaphors into movement. The whole process of choreography is not just exciting, but it is very unpredictable. You never know what shape a piece will take.
In this dance form, we use very diverse, extremely complex time measures and cross rhythms to weave an intricate dance tapestry. A tapestry with many layers of warp and weft.
Mishram Kandam Tisram. Tirmanam. Let's do that now. Okay. Huh? Angendu varen. Okay. Paranlendu. Paranlendu aarambiyya nee. Sari, we'll start from there. 1, 2, 3, 4.
know where the mridangam ends and where the footwork starts. I don't know whether her footwork, the spark of the brilliance of her footwork, or the way she just hugs the rhythm and its complexities, whether that inspires the mridangam, or is it the mridangam she's replying to? We don't know, because it's all, like I said, one voice. She doesn't allow us to separate our minds and look at it differently. It's all just one. That's how beautifully she understands it, and how beautifully she convinces us that this is a language that has perhaps many hidden codes in it. Rhythm, melody, bhava, sahitya, expression, and so on.
Working on the music for poems can be quite fascinating. We first choose ragas to mirror the mood, and then I like the music to capture the cadences of the text.
That's it, perfect. Very nice. இது வந்து லோட்டஸஸ் பண்ணுறதுக்கு அந்த ஒரு பிரிகா போட்டு நீங்கள் சரி எடுத்துடலாம்.
ரெண்டாவது சலீலம்.
ஆமாம், டேக் தி செகண்ட் சலீலம். அந்த வாட்டர் அப்புறம் நீங்கள் அந்த லோட்டஸஸ் 3 வாட்டி பண்ணினீங்கன்னா, ஸோ ட்ரை டு கிவ் மீ சம்திங் இந்த பிரிகா மாதிரி பாடினீங்கன்னா, ஸோ அந்த லோட்டஸ் பெட்டல்ஸ் ஓப்பன் பண்ணுற மாதிரி.
சரி,
something. Let's try the second one.
Saninam sapadmam
Perfect.
Dhrumaha sapushpaha salilam sapadmam salilam sapadmam striyah
When dance becomes a part of one's body memory, the memory of muscle and sinew, it can take on a life of its own. And suddenly something unexpected happens.
For instance, there's something called an arudhi, a flourish of 3 with which you end a sequence of movement. And this one was tattagum tatta, tattagum tatta, tatom 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 tatom. And normally it would have been tattagum tatta, tattagum tatta, tatom 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 tatom. But then there was a day when a percussionist was using light and shade. He was doing tattagum tatta, tattagum tatta, tatom 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 tatom. It changes. And with that I was doing tattagum tatta, tattagum tatta, tatom 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 tatom. And I found myself changing the direction, flowing one way, flowing the other. Then the way you stamp your feet also, the striking of the floor, the pressure changes. about our dance is that we have such freedom because it is only an alphabet. It is up to you to take that alphabet and shape it as you choose. There is a framework, a classical framework, but it is an elastic framework. It has infinite scope for expansion. I, as a dancer, am free to choose any poem I want. Recently, I also found myself working with an English poem, and it was really a challenging, exciting experience.
As shadows lengthen, as the horizon smudges into secrecy, as the ocean withdraws into a misty November opacity, feelings begin to grow more medieval.
As a poet, I have no issues about English as a foreign language. There's no question about, I have no doubts about the fact that English is as much an Indian language as any other. It's as Indian as cricket, it's as Indian as democracy. You know, I have no problems with that. But in a dance form that is so rooted in another language context, how was she going to make English sound inevitable, which is really what we're all trying to achieve as artists, right? That even when you bring in something unfamiliar, that it has to feel like it's inevitable that it has its place there.
Even to be innovative, you have to be a master of the traditional. If you are not a master of the idiom, you don't even know what is innovation. And many times, if you have not really gone through the rigors of mastering a particular idiom, you will never be able to do an improvisation or an innovation that really has a solid element to it. And I think Valli ji in this context, I would say that she has really mastered the traditional idiom very beautifully. She has internalized all the spirit of it as well. And the technique of it, she has really done all that. And then if she chooses to expand the frontiers of what she has mastered, it is a solid innovation. And I would say that she is a traditionally innovative artist or an innovative traditionalist.
As shadows lengthen, as the horizon smudges into secrecy, as the ocean withdraws into a misty November opacity, into a misty November opacity.
Though she very generously calls me collaborator, I'm not even sure that's quite accurate. In fact, that brings me to the other aspect of working with Valli, which is the fact that she's just an amazingly generous human being, really quite remarkably so. And I've seen it in the way she treats I'm not just talking about myself because I've been a friend, but I'm talking about each and every member of her team. There's a real generosity and an ability to make everyone feel that in some way that they count.
Kick up your leg and twirl.
If I can touch my students with a sense of the wonder and the beauty of dance, if I can share with them some of my passion and joy in it, I would consider myself very fortunate. Bharatanatyam is such a profound art. An entire lifetime, I feel, is not sufficient to fathom all its dimensions. And no matter how brilliant or how successful a dancer you may be, the dance is always greater than you. I feel this dance form is like a vast banyan tree, timeless and eternal. The gurus are the branches, and from them roots come down. Each root becomes an individual tree. We are, every one of us, connected to this tradition. Yet we are separate and unique. The tree grows over generations and it spreads, becoming a wonderful creation, a symbol of life, of renewal and regeneration.
Basha kai alte tam tita te kai kai tita te tate tam 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 rit tam kita takate good tat te ye kita takatam rit tam hands are sagging here. நீங்களா இந்த கை வந்து put it out properly here. See இது இல்ல tam tita te tate tam tita te நல்ல மண்டி. now remember tam tita te tate tam tita te tam tita te tate tam tita te tam tita te. Stop. All of you, tam, tita, te. Take it up nicely with a quick tita, te. Palichana. Crisp. I need something crisp, okay? Not tam, tita, te. It shouldn't flow. It shouldn't melt into one movement into the other. Crispa, tam, tita, te. Idu mattum tam, tita, te. Tam, tita, te. I look at my students so comfortable with the computer, and it's a wonderful thing to be comfortable with technology. But I think there is also the danger that technology can become a crutch. Personally, I feel the system of learning that I followed with my master, which was don't even write, go home and think about it. That helped me to understand the art in a far more meaningful way. There's a sense of melancholy sometimes about places like this, where I spent some of the happiest times as a child. A well where we all used to play, some of the cousins used to swim. A sense of an era that is passing, a sense of good things that have evaporated. I know times have to change, that life has to move on, people change, can't all stay the same. Sometimes there is a sense of loss. I don't believe in narrow religiosity. And if you give of your art with truth, then I think the divinity that is inherent in our forms of art expresses itself, finds a voice through you. Faith in yourself can waver. Your faith in people around you can constantly waver. You may get a little cynical, disillusioned. But for me, there is something that remains constant, and that is that sense of bhakti, of devotion, that there is something beyond, something more beautiful, something larger than you, an energy, if you like. I find there is an inner strength that transcends the physical, something that possesses you, irradiates you, and which makes the seemingly impossible possible.
She is at the moment, I think, at the zenith of her career, of her prowess, And she is continuously not only dancing, but composing, putting poetry with the dance together, and inspiring people to write for her. And that's what a great artist does. I am her #1 fan, and will always be.